And you could just feel, the heat radiating up through the bed. Oh. Oh. That's one. That's a point. So what I'm doing here, guys, if you haven't caught on yet, is I'm building a raised bed here in this hollowed out spot where a tree has fallen over, and this gives me some protection from the wind. And I'm just gonna insulate this bed as best I can with these two trees. So these two small pine trees and that pine thicket over there. Yes, I killed 2 pine trees, but trust me, they will be replaced really, really quickly. They grow really fast. They sprout up really fast. There's plenty to go around. Anyway, and plus they're my trees. This is on my property, so I could do with them what I will. But I'm going to use all of the boughs, all the pine needles and branches off there to insulate myself from the ground, the cold ground. I'm going to build a fire up on this platform right here. And then once I get the fire built, I'm going to heat up some rocks. And I'm going to use those hot rocks. I'm going to roll them down this little hill right here. I'm going to roll them down the hill underneath my bed, and that's going to radiate heat up through into me. These leaves are pretty wet, but they'll still serve their purpose. They're still gonna serve the insulating purpose that I'm looking for. I only need my bed to really cover from you know, my head down to my knees for the most part. Everything else is not really that necessary. So I'm gonna really work on kind of closing that part in, so when I shove a hot rock underneath there, that heat will radiate through that smaller space and not just be wasted outside. Starting to come down pretty good right now. Just want it to be kind of messy looking, so they crisscross all over the place. And that's gonna give me a springy, cushy bed. There's a lot of ways to do this. This is just one way that works for me. This particular method, well, this is kind of a variation of it, I guess, but this particular method I learned from Alan Kay, and it's worked really well for him as well. That's why it's so cold to sleep in a hammock during the wintertime with just a sleeping bag, because you compress all the insulation that's underneath you, and it just doesn't work anymore. So by making this ladder, I can't compress it enough to get me to touch the ground. It just won't happen no matter how long I lay on it. Now, I wouldn't go through the trouble of building such an elaborate bed and shelter if I was just gonna stay here one night, perhaps. I mean, unless I was worried about getting really, really cold and I only had minimal gear, minimal equipment, or no equipment at all. If I had nothing, then I would definitely do this. But if I had some sort of sleep pad like I do, even a small one like that, and I was just gonna spend one night, maybe, maybe not. While I work here, guys, if you haven't already hit the thumbs up, please do that. I'd really, really, really be grateful for that. Consider subscribing if you haven't done so already, and I'll continue putting out really awesome videos for you. Sticking the pointy ends down, you're avoiding getting those sticks stabbing in your back in the middle of the night. Also, before I forget, Survival Dispatch has launched its e-commerce, so you can go to the link in the description, and that will take you to our store. Hundreds of products that you could choose from right there. Oh yeah. Oh, that's pretty good. You might be saying to yourself, hey, those rocks look heavy. Why don't you just camp closer to where you're gonna get the rocks? Well, because while there's some rocks up here, up on this high side of the hill, they're buried and I'd have to dig for them. The easiest place to access good rocks is down in the creek, but it's cold down there, and at night it's gonna get really cold down there. So, I'm gonna do a little bit of hiking to fetch the rocks that are easier to get. One big push as opposed to a lot of digging to find some decent rocks. And you're also thinking, hey, I heard that you're never supposed to use rocks out of a creek because they'll explode. Well, I've done this a lot of times, and I've done it with rocks out of the creek a lot, and they've never exploded. They've occasionally fractured, but I'm selective with my rocks. I use quartz rocks out of the creek. Quartz, for some reason, it doesn't seem to blow up or explode or anything like that. And your results may vary, but I just say be careful with that. Don't select really porous rocks. So a dense, heavy rock, which is harder to carry, but less likely to split and break. Super important when you know you're going to do some physical activity and start to sweat a little bit, to shed some layers so you don't soak through those layers of sweat, because as soon as you stop moving, almost immediately you get cold. Down trees like this, the hollowed out spot that the roots create is one of my favorite places to shelter. It just feels nice and cozy, right? I'm sheltered on one complete side, and this side even is blocking me from the wind just a little bit. It's pretty windy today. You can probably hear it on the camera. But down here in this little bit of a sump, especially if I lay down, the wind doesn't really touch me. One really important thing to note is to not put the rocks on the fire, because they probably will break if you do that, if not explode. I don't think they'll explode, but they'll probably break for sure. But if you put them just next to the fire, basically like you're building a fire ring, they'll get good and hot. I'm not much of a seamstress, but it'll keep it from tearing more, that's for sure. This fire's been burning for, I don't know, let's say maybe an hour now. And definitely this rock is too hot to touch. 5 rocks here, so I can be constantly rotating them. I could be having a couple rocks underneath me, and while a couple more are heating up, so I can just be rotating them back and forth. Now let's say, like, I'm just gonna use my shovel basically, and that's gonna make it easy to handle these big rocks, right? Even if they're really, really hot, I can just pick them up like this and put them underneath my bed and then fish them out of there with it as well. But something that would probably work even better, and let's say you didn't have a handy dandy shovel like this, you can make yourself some tongs. Now, obviously, since it's starting to snow on us again, it'd be a very good idea to have some sort of cover over top of us to protect us from any precipitation. But it's very difficult to see what I'm doing if I've got a cover over top of me. So I'm trying to let you see kind of what's going on, and the main focus of this video is building that bed and using hot rocks to heat that bed. You guys can imagine what it would look like with a cover over top. You can baton a multi-tool, but you got to do it very gingerly. If you beat on it at all, you'll get some wobble like I have. I've abused my tools. You'll get some wobble in the blade like that. So just do it very gingerly and you'll usually be okay. That goes for pretty much any folder. But if you have a larger tool, such as a sharp shovel like this one, you can make short work of it. Got to be careful not to let it split off to one side. This one's splitting pretty even despite all of its knots. Just wrapping paracord pretty tight around this portion down to where I've split it, because I'm going to spread this thing apart and I don't want it to split any further. Then we just take a small stick, jam it down in there, like so. We've got some quickie tongs, some quickie bushcraft tongs that will allow us to pick up our rocks without burning our hands. These rocks are really hot, and like I said, you saw me get them out of the creek. I mean, they've been in the creek for a millennia probably. They're as wet as they were ever going to get. But I warmed them up really, really slowly. I was careful with my rock selection. They're really, it's not a porous rock. These are quartz. They didn't even bust. They didn't break, nothing. So there's that. Let's get one under there. So I left a hole right underneath my bed, a small entryway, so I can get my rocks in there. There we go. Got one in there. That rock's good and hot. Cram it in there. And then we'll just rotate some of the other ones in front of the fire that aren't good and hot yet. Oh yeah, and you can just feel there's a hole right here where I put in my put my rocks in. You can feel the heat coming out of there. So what I would want to do is maybe use something like this or my pack. I'm gonna lay my pack right here, and I can just block that hole because I closed it in all the way everywhere else. So let's use my sleep pad there. Since I've got my wool blanket and I built myself a really nice bed, I can just lay on that and enjoy the warmth coming up. Oh yeah, that's good. And then again, imagine I've got some sort of cover overhead, right, protecting me from the elements outside, and that would further trap in some heat and keep me a little bit warmer. And don't skimp on your mattress. That's a big deal. If you expect to get a reasonable night's sleep, make sure that you do everything you can to make the mattress as comfy as possible. If you feel a stick stabbing you or whatever, something lumpy, something poking in there that you missed, something that you just should have moved but thought, it'll be fine. It won't be fine come 2 a.m. So just go ahead and fix it now while it's still daylight and you're not, exhausted. And then once your rocks have cooled off, once they've overstayed their welcome, and you can touch them by hand, fish them out of there. This one's still really hot. Not quite ready to be swapped out yet, but you get the idea. I would remove one of those rocks, and I would just get one out of the rotation, like this one, and fish it under there, trying not to burn my sleep pad here. There's a rock. I don't know if you can see it dark in there, but there's a rock directly underneath my butt right now. And you could just feel, the heat radiating up through the bed. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. I really, really do appreciate it. Make sure you leave in comments. It really helps a lot. For today's comment, you can tell me what your favorite color is, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream. You can tell me, would you prefer a multi-tool or a sharp shovel in a scenario just like this one? What would you prefer? Anyway, leave that in the comments. I'd be really grateful for it. See you next time.